Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tubby Talk, the show where we talk about video games, and I do that with my two co-hosts who are the purveyors of the coolest ice cream factory in Manioc, Chris and Steve. Fellas, how you doing today?
Doing good, yeah. Making ice cream.
And I believe, when's this coming out? I think you guys just had an amazing experience at Reading Terminal Market.
Oh, it was so great. Let me tell you, Terry. We sold ice cream profiteroles, our ice cream hoagie.
Yep.
We call it the adventures of the ice cream hoagie.
That's right.
Actually, before we get into the episode today, can you guys just tell me what the ice cream hoagie is?
Yeah, so the ice cream hoagie is a puff pastry, a profiterole, an Italian pastry that we form in the shape of a hoagie, a shorty roll. But at events, we like to do mini ice cream hoagies, which are about 3 inches long. Slice them up, and then we put 2 little scoops of ice cream in, little dollop of hot fudge and chocolate jimmies, and they're really fun.
And you could hear, by the way, Chris described that we are in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where hoagies are a big deal. If you haven't had an ice cream hoagie, be sure to try one out. When I was a kid, I remember going to places like Pizza Hut or any of your basic family pizza place establishments or dining places that would cater to young kids. And in every one of these, right before you get into where the hostess is, there's that little vestibule between. And inside most of those vestibules was a gaming cabinet, and it was the Street Fighter gaming cabinet. We're talking about Street Fighter today.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that?
Oh yeah, of course. That was my childhood right there. I'm sure Chris's was too.
Yeah, we lived in that
He
vestibule.
lived 2 blocks away from a Pizza Hut for a while.
Yes. Unfortunately, it's gone now, like all the good ones. But the eat in Pizza Huts with the vestibule, that was the best.
That was it. And
yeah.
I guess I think a documentary recently came out or is coming out about Street Fighter 2 and how big a deal that game was. And they brought up the fact that it was everywhere. It was in liquor stores.
Yeah.
Like, just these cabinets were everywhere. And I guess you kind of got a glimpse of the future, yet also the past in that original scene of, like, coming down from the building. And we can show the people at home. You want to grab the Street Fighter 2 intro?
A tracked screen intro.
Yeah. Didn't those characters get into the games eventually?
Technically, no. I think they're background characters, I believe, in Street Fighter 5
the
or
arcade
4.
one right there.
They were either background characters or they were like alternate costumes.
Mm-hmm.
But they do look a lot like 2 characters that are in Street Fighter, but they're not quite the same ones. One guy looks like Cody from Final Fight. Another guy kind of looks like the guy from the Warriors, actually, now I'm thinking about it. The Can You Dig It guy.
I love that intro because I always like, oh, this is the lore of Street Fighter. This is the first time 2 guys fought in the street.
The first time in Street Fighter 2.
Yes.
The first time they fought in the street.
And it's a great crowd.
Yeah, because like they never mention who they are or what they're doing, or like there's just 2 people fighting in the street. They're none of the characters, and there's 8 other people. They're also going to fight.
Yeah, I mean, Street Fighter 2 was the one that kind of blew the doors off, but that's not the one we're going to talk about today. You guys want to talk about the newest release, which is Street Fighter 6. Have you played this game?
Street Fighter 6, yeah. I bought it the day it came out. I've been playing it steadily whenever I can weave it in between Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
It's really fun, and it's, for once, it's very beginner friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that somebody that's been playing Street Fighter since Street Fighter 1. I always have to relearn the game.
Yes.
And so this one, they give you a really good tutorial, and they have really good mechanics to not get your butt whooped immediately.
From what I understood from the periphery, Street Fighter had a bit of controversy in a couple of previous releases.
Yes.
That were addressed in the release of 6. Like, 6 is finished.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a complete game. Mm-hmm. Street Fighter 5 came out with only 1 line head-to-head capabilities. You couldn't even play like couch co-op against I get couch co-op, couch competitive against each other.
Yeah, and there was no arcade mode with like a story at all in that game. There's very little single-player content.
The story mode was very bare bones.
So it's one I didn't even play. It's the only one I never played, actually. I played pretty much everything else, but Street Fighter 4 prior to that was beloved. Like, it was the first big 3D Street Fighter, and people, they made so many versions of it. It had tons of characters, looked great, and then Street Fighter 5 came out, and everyone's like, well, what's this? And I think the real reason is that Ken had hot dog hair, They made Ken look real weird.
Dylan, we're gonna need a visual of Ken hot dog hair.
Like, because the sad part was the new character designs were relatively realistic, and then Ken looks like
banana head Ken there.
Yeah.
Oh my
Which
god.
one? In the middle, the Capcom one?
Yeah, that one
that
right
one.
there. Why do they make him look like that?
That's true. I would say more banana hair. I mean,
Yeah.
those are 3 bananas that his hair is based around.
That is bananas.
he looks like if Donkey Kong from Donkey Kong Country decided to masquerade as a Street Fighter and made himself a wig of bananas and like shaved his face and was like, "Let's go fight."
And what does he look like in Street Fighter 6? You want to just throw Street Fighter 6?
He looks like a human man. in Street Fighter 6. A homeless human man, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So he's got a different vibe going on, but it's still like, oh, that's Ken's face. It's like, this is Ken's falling on hard times, but he's still got that kind of like, fighting tough guy spirit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I loved the trailer for Street Fighter 6, that first one that showed Ryu with a beard.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we're growing, we're getting bigger. They're huge now.
They're
by
so
the way.
big.
Ryu's been getting wider in every game.
Yeah. I mean, he has. They're muscular and giant. Can I see, what does Akuma look like in Street Fighter 6? Assuming
He's not in it.
Akuma's not in it yet. He's announced his DLC for later this year.
I think the game started with like 16 characters. It's something. Yeah, it's like 16
or
characters.
12 or 16, yeah.
Akuma. Dylan is not a gamer, our wonderful podcast producer. He's more of a silly videos type guy.
Yeah.
I can imagine he would probably look like the lion-headed one that's in the middle.
Street Fighter
down
5.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, because I say looked in 5.
He looks like a Lionel from Breath of the Wild, actually. A lot like it.
I wonder
He
if they're-
does.
I wonder
Click
if they're
the
both
Big
based-
Bad Toy Store
They're both
one.
based on a certain like Japanese folklore person or creature.
Yep, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, that is interesting. He's a lion's mane now.
Yeah, every game his hair gets bigger.
Yeah, like how's it coming out of his neck? How is this happening?
But so this was in 5. We have not yet seen a reveal for 6. We just
have
know
not.
he's coming.
Yeah, we haven't seen a reveal yet, but there's another character announced for 6, Rashid, who is new to 5, and
Let's
he
take a
looks
look.
exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I imagine that Akuma should look something like his Street Fighter 5 incarnation.
Yeah. Rashid is I forget what country it is. Middle
He's,
East.
Saudi Arabia
Saudi Arabia.
specifically, yeah.
And I know like every country goes wild for the representation. So like people in Saudi Arabia and Middle East at large like love Rashid. They're
Yeah,
like,
like
oh
all
man,
the
this is
Rashid
our guy.
memes. He's a pretty strong character too.
Oh yeah, he does kind of look similar. Here, click the one right below that.
He has a
says
scouter
Street Fighter
from
6.
Dragon Ball Z for some reason.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So I mean, yeah, let's kind of get into this, and I guess let's kind of just overview the Street Fighters as and how we get to 6. So I do not have any recollection whatsoever of the original Street Fighter.
Yeah.
You
Very
mentioned
few
you
people
did.
do. So it was originally an arcade game.
Okay.
It had 2 buttons for punch and kick. And the original one, you had to hit it.
Pressure sensitive.
Pressure sensitive. So the harder you hit the button, was how you determine the strength of the blow. So it went from quick, medium, and fierce.
Oh my
depending
God.
on how hard. Now they changed it up because people were breaking these arcade cabinets because people are coming in just wailing on the machine, and they're like,
Can
"Well,
I
that's
see
not
one
going
of
to
these,
work."
Dylan?
Yeah, if you look at
The
original
Street Fighter
1
cabinet.
cabinet, you might have to say 1 specifically, even though it wasn't called that.
Well, now you're getting Mortal Kombat 1
Yeah, I like
vibes.
Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah.
Which I actually don't have a problem with.
No, me neither. I like the way they did it.
Yeah, see those giant punch and kick buttons. Crazy. So there
see
would be
that a
2
little
kids
better.
standing in front of each next
Yeah,
to
click
each other.
that
just
Arcade Tokyo one.
pounding.
They hurt.
Yeah.
Hurt.
Oh,
they were,
my
they were
God,
not
they're
giving.
huge.
Yes.
They're really big.
Is that the original? No, it can't be the original.
That's
Yeah,
the
the original
original button for the
No,
original.
for Street Fighter, I'm thinking like of
Oh.
arcade cabinets.
Oh, no.
Or was it always
No,
the
no.
classic whites, reds, and blues and yellows?
Well, I'm
Little
not sure.
ones.
Like the thing about Street Fighter was that everywhere kind of hodgepodge their own. So
Yeah.
like very few people had like an official Street Fighter 2. They had like a Street Fighter 2 kit where it would come with the board and they would put it into an existing cabinet.
And like the decal or like delivery for the cabinet. You just stick it on the side. Sometimes it matched up, sometimes it didn't.
Yep.
The arcade, I played it in the most, had a Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like this weird, like black and white camo livery for the cabinet. And it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, guys, camo isn't even that color.
Yeah.
It's black and white.
It's probably some other game that they painted over.
Just stuck the logo over top of it.
But yeah, Street Fighter, like, I was introduced to Street Fighter via Pizza Hut and the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Where Street Fighter 2 took over the entire planet.
Yes.
So most people's first experience with Street Fighter would be 2 that are kind of in, our age demographic. But there was one prior, but I had no idea about the buttons.
Well, yeah, it's super jank too. Like you can go back and play this game on the Switch, in like their collections, and like
it still doesn't work very well, even though it has
still doesn't work
digital
very
buttons.
well. But so they did eventually switch this out because the arcades were breaking. So they're like, all right, they moved to the now standard 6-button setup.
Okay.
So there's a button for each of the different intensities, and
Even on the original?
Street Fighter 1 cabinets have 6-button setups.
Second revisions.
Did
of the
they have to
cabinets.
change the programming then so that you could have like high punch, medium punch?
Yeah, they probably had to make some alterations in the code.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you can find a cabinet that has the original punch buttons, it's probably worth a lot right now.
Yeah.
So the big thing with Street Fighter 2 is that there were like 9 versions of it, right?
At least.
Something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
The first one came out in the arcades, and then it was like Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Hyper Fighting.
Championship Edition added the bosses as playable characters.
Yes,
The four.
Was that before? Was
bosses.
Championship Edition before Turbo?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Championship
Right
Edition
there.
was the edition that I think was released on Super Nintendo.
Now,
No, the
It wasn't?
original
Was it original?
was you could not
Okay.
play the bosses in the first
the
iteration.
Championship Edition was released for Genesis.
and also,
I knew one
who-
of them had it as a separate edition.
Who were the bosses?
You had Balrog,
Uh-huh.
who was the boxer, who in Japan was M. Bison.
Mike Bison.
And you had Vega, who was the Spanish clawman with the mask.
Oh man,
And he was originally
Nice,
no, he was always
Dylan.
Vega. No, he wasn't Vega.
Yeah, there you go.
No, he was Balrog. And then you had Sagat, who was
Always Sagat.
Who was always Sagat. He was the Muay Thai master who got a scar in his chest from Ryu in Street Fighter 1.
Yeah,
But since
and
nobody played it, nobody knew what that referred to. And then you had M.
unless
Bison.
you watch the anime, which is excellent.
animated movie Street Fighter
Yeah.
2. The movie is
It's
great.
excellent.
And then you had M. Bison, who was the main boss, who was Vega in Japan, who's a dictator who has psycho power.
yeah, of a country named Shadowloo.
Shadow Lu. Yeah, which has they're environmentalists, right?
Oh,
Like
I think
underneath it
in
all is
name,
like
yeah,
he
yeah.
wants to be an environmentalist or something crazy.
He wants to save the environment by killing all the humans and controlling the ones that are left.
he's basically Greenpeace.
Yes. Extreme Greenpeace. But Street Fighter 2, there was also Super Street Fighter 2. Well, there was Street Fighter 2 Turbo and then Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
those introduced 4 new characters.
Right. But I think Akuma was a hidden character in one of the earlier ones.
I think he was a hidden character first in Street Fighter Alpha, I believe.
It's after Alpha.
It was after Alpha.
I mean, it was before because Alpha
think
came
it's
out
in
after.
2.
Street, it was Super Street Fighter 2 is when he was a hidden
Okay.
boss, and then Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo he was a hidden playable character.
Here, Google that, Dylan.
I'm pretty sure I
Akuma's
have that
first
right.
appearance. But Akuma, as soon as I encountered him, and the way I encountered him is very funny, was not in Street Fighter 2, not in Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So Super Street Fighter 2
was the
Turbo
first one, okay.
is when Akuma showed up as a
Okay.
hidden character. But I discovered Akuma by playing Street Fighter the movie, the game, and pushing up. And bam, there's this secret Akuma character who does not feature in the movie, but is there. We have an episode from back in the day where we talk a little bit about this, but
How terrible that movie and the game were.
yeah.
Although Chris loves the movie. We had
Oh,
an
the
argument
movie.
about this the other
We
day.
went back and I watched it recently with my wife, and we had a blast. Like that is a fun movie. I have a candle for that one. Like it was. People hated it back then. They're like, oh my god, I didn't take it
I
seriously.
saw it 2 months ago. I hated it then.
You hated it again? I mean, so we diverge on that because I think it's still a super fun movie.
DJ is in that movie.
Yeah.
But I think they call him TJ in the movie for some reason instead of DJ. I think. There's something weird like that with a couple of characters. Chun-Li's a reporter.
Yeah.
But
Well, and they make E Honda is one of the cameramen.
yeah, that's right.
Ryu and Ken are just like random like treasure hunters
Yeah,
that happen
why
to
are
be
they-
in the area looking for gold. Or Ken's looking for gold and Ryu's tagging along.
Yeah, I guess.
All American Guile is Belgian for some reason.
But because it's Van Damme.
Yeah.
But honestly, don't play it. Don't watch it unless you're doing it going in. If you're not hate watching, but bad movie watching, because you can watch a bad movie with like shitty puppets and stuff and have a good time.
Yeah.
but you don't watch it just to be angry at it.
It's a fun bad movie to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not a good movie to want to watch a good movie.
It has some great lines
in my
in
opinion.
it, though. Like the M. Bison line with Chun-Li is still a classic I think of to this day. Do you know the day the Great Bison was the most important day of your life?
Yes.
The day the Great Bison graced your life was the most important day of your life. But for me,
it was Tuesday.
it was fantastic. It was so good.
And then of course my other favorite line, "You guys are getting paid?"
Yeah, from Zangief.
From Zangief, after he realizes the other henchmen haven't been paid
Yeah,
yet.
DJ's like, "I don't get paid enough for this." Then Zangief goes, "You get paid?"
I remember seeing it. I remember enjoying it. It was wonderful. It hit me right in the pocket. You know, it was that age where that movie, Mortal Kombat, Annihilation was good. Not the first one. I liked Annihilation better.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, when I was a kid. I've grown. But anyway, trucking forward. Then randomly and kind of oddly, we got Street Fighter 3.
Yes.
And I don't remember how it was dropped. I think it was dropped before Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, or it was dropped in it was after Alpha.
So yeah, it was Alpha 2, Street Fighter 3, then Street Fighter Alpha 3.
Yeah.
And then 2 more versions of Street Fighter 3.
And Alphas were a prequel, which was a whole other series that all new animation. Like they redrew all the characters. It looked great, and that's one that a lot of the hardcore like people who love the mechanics really enjoyed the Alpha series.
And it added things like combo canceling,
parries,
and the super move.
Yeah, because there were super moves like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but they were very basic. It was just like use the super meter to do a slightly more powerful super attack.
There was no meter in Super Street Fighter.
Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, there's a super meter at the bottom.
Okay. Super Street Fighter 2. Oh, I distinctly remember I had Alpha. Alpha came out on the Super Nintendo. This is when we moved to next gen back then, which is, the original PlayStation.
And the Sega Saturn
Street Fighter Alpha. Oh, and Sega Saturn.
Well, so the Saturn version was like the quintessential arcade version. And then the PlayStation was slightly stripped down, but not much. And then the Super NES version was very stripped down.
Yes.
Like they took out like every other animation.
Well, and
like,
it had some loading times. The fact that it ran at all, though, is kind of a miracle. I was reading about the tech breakdown of that game. But the Saturn was known as the quintessential version at home because the Saturn was better with 2D games than the PlayStation. But that's also why the Saturn failed, because it couldn't do 3D very well, very easily. True. And everyone's like, well, 3D is the future, PlayStation. But then Street Fighter there was kicking like, oh, yeah, well, we're going to draw a whole lot.
and the Alpha series was wonderful. It was kind of a little left field, but it was Street Fighter and, Ryu was in it.
Yeah.
Which, to me, if Ryu's not in it, is it a Street Fighter? That is the question that Street Fighter 3 posited.
And the fun part about it is Guy was also in it from Final Fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they pulled in a lot of characters from Final Fight, actually. Yeah. They had Sodom, and they had Rolento. It was all these weird...
I didn't know Rolento was Final Fight.
Yeah, he's the like third stage boss. You fight him on like an elevator in a skyscraper, and he's jumping around tossing grenades at you.
I remember the old man. What was his name? Genkin?
Gen.
But I remember he did... So it wasn't until... Well, we'll get to this in a minute. Street Fighter 3, really cool drawing.
Oh,
really cool
they
animation.
Upped the animation game. Like, that's the peak.
Yeah. And now Street Fighter 3 is looked at in a great light. But when it came out, I mean, it tanked.
It totally tanked.
It was very hard to play. There was a new parry mechanic that was added that was very tough to actually pull off. And you had to be like frame perfect, which most people are not.
And worst of all, like, it was a pinnacle 2D game in the era of 3D is new and shiny.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the date here, February 4th, 1997. I mean, that is 2 years into the N64.
Yeah.
Where Mario 64 and was Zelda out? Zelda was 98.
98.
I think. So it was right before, like, Nintendo dropped the hammer first with Mario being a full 3D thing, and that took the world by storm. Zelda was about to come out and revolutionize that as well. So then Street Fighter had to make an interesting choice.
Yeah.
And I believe it was called the Street Fighter EX series.
Yes. Yeah. They made a 3D, what one would call now a 2.5D, I guess, fighting game. Street Fighter EX, which was polygonal Street Fighter.
There it is, right there, the PSX long. Yep, there it is.
I believe it was in conjunction with and/or outsourced to a different company altogether. It's like Dimps, I think it's called. They went on to make a lot of like the Dragon Ball Z like tournament fighter games, like where you fly around and shoot Kamehamehas all over. Yeah, like Budokai.
Yeah.
And the I think they went on to do those. Their character Skullomania, which they made for Street Fighter EX, is owned by them. So Capcom hasn't really been able to use him in the subsequent Street Fighter games.
Oh, interesting.
No Skullomania for the rest of us.
I think he does have a costume or something in like Street Fighter 4.
Whoa! And the EX was also released in '97. So that's interesting. So Street Fighter 3 and EX were out.
Yeah.
At the same time.
So they were like, all right, so they're trying to have two pipelines. Which one's going to catch on, the 3D or the 2? Neither did.
I think 97 might be around when Street Fighter Mega Man X8 came out.
Yeah.
Which was also 3D and also bombed and also ended the Street Fighter X line.
This was an era.
Capcom was getting its ass kicked in 3D.
Yeah.
It was, and it was a big problem for them because they didn't know what to do. They were flailing in all directions. The one thing that was making them tons of money, though, was the Resident Evil series, which was all 3D. Continues to be a cash cow for them, but that kind of got them through those times. But we didn't see Street Fighter for years after this.
I just noticed it was 8 years after Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, the last revision, and Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
And 3 Third Strike people like.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
That's
not
like
at
the quintessential.
time, but they really.
Yeah. They still play it at the Evo Fighting Game tournament now.
I thought so. Is that the miracle blocking?
Yeah, the
Evo moment.
Yeah, Daigo and Justin
Wong.
Justin Wong. Yeah,
he parries every single
every
individual.
attack in
unbelievable.
A super move with it's like 25 attacks in quick succession, and he parries each of them individually.
It's unbelievable.
You had to. That's why it was so tough to parry in that game.
Yeah.
So to your point earlier, that's someone being frame perfect 30 plus times
under pressure. It was like the last. It was like the last match, the last life bar of the last match for like the championship.
So when does Street Fighter 4 then come out? Did you say it's 8 years?
Yes, it came out 2008. So like 8 or 9 years later.
So I remember Street Fighter 4. I remember a friend of mine had it. You know, at the time, I was diehard Mr. Nintendo. I cannot buy another platform, but I did get experience. Okay, so July 18th, 2008 is 11 years. Because the last one was 97.
But no, so 99 was when Third Strike came out.
Oh,
like
99 was Third Strike.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. But
so,
still,
so it was 9 years later. Yeah.
Long time, but this one people dug. This was welcome back, right?
Yeah, Capcom finally figured out how to marry 3D with the 2D, which is basically make a 2D game with 3D models.
Yeah, so they took the gameplay of the original Street Fighter 2 series and just basically made it pretty. And the 3D models look great in this. They're very expressive. They're still like cartoony, but still like serious enough. It like really had that edge.
Yeah, and there was like this Japanese ink brush style that you can see reflected in the title. Like they used that as like special effects for especially the parry they had in that game. It was called the Focus parry.
Dylan.
And you know, it was kind of seen as a return to form. Like they took all the original 8 characters back, like all the original World Warriors, and they look the same. Like they took the same design. Like Chun-Li is wearing the exact same thing she's wearing in Street Fighter 2. So they were like, "Hey, it's the Street Fighter you remember, just in 3D," and people loved it.
And the thing was, it wasn't in 3, and it wasn't in that weird 2.5D. That's a 2D game.
Yeah,
you know, that's essentially it's the, it's like Donkey Kong Country style. They're pre-rendered, but they only move left and right.
Well, they're not pre-rendered in this, but effectively
they didn't have to be. But.
Yeah,
but my point being, you remember when N64 hit and there were games like Mace and War Gods, and they were trying to crack fighters. Mortal Kombat did this, and they were like, oh, well, what if you could move to the right in a circle? That would be awesome, because then we're in 3D. This game essentially doesn't have any mechanic like that at all. It's what you remember. It just looks
modern. Yeah, for the time, very modern.
It still looks great. Like you play this game now, and if someone told me it came out yesterday, I'd be like, oh yeah, seems about right.
Yeah,
it looks good.
So
a small indie dev made it today.
Yeah,
and people dug it. I mean, people really dug this game, and this is. Did you guys have a lot of experience playing this one?
Yeah, so Street Fighter, like most of the modern Street Fighters, I pre-ordered it. I bought it first. I sat down, came home from work, played it for about 4 hours, loved it. Didn't want to put it down. Went online, got my butt kicked. And then I'd endeavored to get better, and I practiced with Ryu and a couple of the other characters like day in and day out for a couple weeks. It just didn't grab me the way that I was used to from, just the classic head-to-head, clean. You punch me, I block it, hit you with the dragon punch and retaliation. Gameplay of like Street Fighter 2.
I would posit, though, a lot of that is because we did not play in arcades. At the time, everything's now a console. You go home, and if you're playing with the friends, it's either online or it's in person on your couch. But it's not the same as being in an arcade. If you're playing in an arcade with a whole group of people and people are putting their quarters up, like that
definitely
changes.
inspires you to be your best.
Yes. Steve and I basically all through high school and grade school would go to the arcade every day after school and have that environment, and it was so fun.
Yeah. And so was Street Fighter 4 slower than Street Fighter 2 Turbo?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, it plays so much slower that they actually ended up putting out a Street Fighter 4 revision, which added, turbo speeds to it. Like
here, Dylan, click
Turbo
that.
did.
Which version of Street Fighter 4 is best?
It's a good game. Oh, it's best. Yeah.
Which one is a good game? The theme song for the first edition, I believe, was, if it was not done by Linkin Park, it was done in the style of Linkin.
Yeah.
With like rap vocals over it and everything. And I was like, this is a weird departure from the music of the old games. And every game since then, 5 and 6, both have like full rap vocals in the intros.
Yeah.
Intro songs, which is interesting.
Well, and
I kind of like it, except the rap is garbage.
Yeah.
this is interesting that Street Fighter 4, similar to Street Fighter 2, had a bunch of versions.
Yes.
Did that continue into 5?
No.
Well, the thing is, then they went to full DLC model.
Yeah. Like season passes and things like that.
Yeah.
And that rubs some people the wrong way.
Especially because it took them like 3 season passes to finish the arcade mode.
Yes.
And release it.
So Street Fighter 5, I'm looking at 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
that
Street
sounds right.
Fighter 4 came out in 2008. But the last revision of it came out in 2014. So people were expecting, at the minimum, Ultra Street Fighter 4 2.
Yeah.
And they didn't get it?
No, they didn't get it.
And there's a console jump there, right?
So yeah, the Street Fighter 4 came out in the 360 PS3 era originally.
Street Fighter 5 was exclusive to PS5.
5?
Wait, no, exclusive to PS4 when it came out.
Yeah.
Exclusive to PS4 when it came out. 5 didn't exist yet.
And it came out on Windows?
Eventually came out on Windows, and I think Xbox too, but it was... Yeah.
And 4 was on Windows as well. That's actually where I played it. I played that on PC, which is very different, the opposite of an arcade.
It took off the most on PC. I think actually for competitive play, they use PCs.
Yeah.
But normally they would use a console version. But they use PC for Street Fighter 4.
I've always been a fan of this series. I've always been a fan of the lore of this series, of the characters of this series. So it was weird to see a revolt against Street Fighter 5, but I also understand it. It sounds like Street Fighter 5 betrayed the fans and released a game that was incomplete. But that was also par for the course at that time period, I think.
Yeah, like they were chasing the zeitgeist of esports. And so they were like, hey, if we put out the competitive part, we can work on the other stuff later because people don't care about that. They just want to be able to make it an esport.
Mm-hmm.
And then they realized casual players don't care about the esport part. They're not going to score high on any brackets or get sponsored by a team. They just want to be able to play against a computer or against their friends. And they made it very hard to do both.
So that brings us to a game I have not played, but you both have. Street Fighter 6 from the drop.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys feel?
I love it. Like the first trailers came out, I was like, oh, this is different. It has so it's street style. Is the best way I can say it. It's all graffiti.
Yeah, like
and
late
it's all,
80s, or early 80s, late 70s, like graffiti.
Yeah.
Like artistic style.
And the game takes place in Metro City, which is where Final Fight takes place.
Oh, cool. Oh, and everyone's... Wait a minute. Is Hagar in this?
He's not in it yet.
Hagar has a statue and a stadium.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's supposed to be dead or not.
He's not the mayor anymore.
Yeah.
Final Feast is the name of the
burger
restaurant?
place?
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So you just see this. It's like, this big city. This is Metro City.
Cody is the mayor now.
But it's got a style that
Oh,
is
there you go.
right there. It looks awesome. And so this guy here, Luke, is kind of the poster boy in this
He's the
game.
new main character.
And we're a little mixed on him. Like, he's supposed to be like kind of a generic good guy fighter, but
He's a generic good guy fighter who works for a private military organization.
yeah.
And why are we mixed on him?
Because he's
new.
Because he has Popeye forearms.
He does have huge forms. The proportions in these games are always exaggerated, but like See, the thing is, like, he also looks kind of like a pretty boy. He's supposed to be this like paramilitary guy. He's got scars on his face, but he looks like a boy band.
His background is he loves playing video games.
Whoa, you run around in this
Yeah.
game?
Yeah, there's a story mode where you create a character and then you actually train from the other Street Fighter, characters from the past games, and they teach you their fighting styles.
Wow.
As you interact with the Mad Gear gang from Final Fight. So one of the first quest givers is Damned, the first boss from Final Fight, and he gives you a quest to do.
So, can I ask you guys a technical question on this? This isn't Unreal 5, is it?
No, this is
what is this
actually
developed on?
the RE engine, which is the Resident Evil engine for all their modern games. So yeah, they're using the technology that Capcom developed in-house for Resident Evil.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
all the years of perfecting Resident Evil led them to be able to convert that engine into Street Fighter 6. It was also the engine for Monster Hunter Rise, which was the latest Monster Hunter game, which is a completely different style of game than Resident Evil or Street Fighter. So it's very versatile.
Yeah.
Boy,
And you can see
they are big in this.
Yeah, they are. And Chun-Li's thighs have never been bigger. Every game they get a little bit big. And Ryu's just like he's
Massive.
got so big.
I mean, I love this art style, though. I love the keep it just a little bit anime, a little bit
Oh, yeah.
cartoony, right? Like, I don't need hyper realistic here, because this is just wonderful to look at. Oh, I see the street style.
Yeah, so
that you're
the
referring
ink
to.
brushes still
Oh
come
my
out in this,
God.
Yeah.
but it's more of a colorful kind of spray paint sort of ink.
And every
as
character
opposed-
has like their own spin on it too.
Yeah.
And are people? Is this already taking over competitive play? Because I know nothing about that world really.
So I saw some YouTube videos of a Daigo, one of the top in the world. He's been playing it a lot on online because most of the pros play online now. And there's like a mystery Ken player that keeps beating him, and he's been like a Ken main for a couple of games now. And he's
this
like the
is
best Ken in
fun.
the world, except for this new guy. Nobody knows who he is. Keeps whipping up on him and other people as Ken. And
I love that. There's a mystery guy going
Yeah,
around.
so after a
just
couple
beating
weeks, he was
people.
just like, I need to find who this guy is. Like maybe he'll show up at Evo or something. I don't know if this is like some wrestling kayfabe
I
stuff,
hope it's a kid.
or if it's just like literal kid that's just really good.
I hope it's you when you used to do that on the virtual on machine.
Yeah, just taking on all comers.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so there's a lot to this game. Like, not only does it have the head-to-head stuff, the online fun, but it's got this open world thing where you go around fighting people with a story. But in addition to that, there's also the classic arcade mode where you pick a character, fight through 6 fights, and see a beginning and an ending, which is what I jumped into first.
What
to
you
be
want
honest.
from Street Fighter, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Ken's ending is Ken's story is that he's on the run from everybody now. He's branded as a terrorist.
Can I see a character list, Dylan?
Yeah, and he's trying to get away from the people that ruined him. And basically, the boss of his arcade mode is JP, who, as far as I can tell, is the walking personification of capitalism.
The
guy that looks like
big guy.
Oh no, the old guy with like
the old guy with long hair, and he has a cane.
But
Oh,
he's
here we
also
go. Just kind of scroll down
like
here.
10 feet
Yeah,
tall.
right there on the left.
JP on the left.
Yeah, that guy.
He's just this tall, like
What? Oh,
robber
that's not who I was thinking of.
baron-esque.
Look how jacked his arms are too.
man who's a robber baron, and
Wait, I know who Wally Wingert is.
yeah, he's a voice actor in for a long time in
Yeah.
animes and like American cartoons.
But look, this guy's like, I'm 80 years old and I will beat the heck out of you.
6'3" and 234 pounds.
This is why I love Street Fighter, though. Look at that last sentence. Has a beloved cat named Cybele. Hates stains on his clothes and sleep. Likes chess puzzles.
Yeah.
Street Fighter's so fun.
Yeah, and so in the story mode, he takes over Ken's company by blackmailing Ken or framing Ken into helping a terrorist organization.
Yep.
So then Ken goes on the run. He takes over the company, and then Ken's trying to fight his way back into his company to take out JP.
With his fists, like you do.
Yeah, there was a lot of speculation before the game came out that Ken was divorced from his wife, and that's why he was living on the streets and dressed
Now
like a
Ken
hobo.
Masters was married.
Yeah, he got married and has a
Yeah,
kid.
his girlfriend was in too. She was in the background on his stage. He got married, had a kid.
And he
And-
became, an industrialist, a family. He went home and became a family man, like Guile told him.
Like Guile told him to do.
So were all these characters? Can you go back real quick? Were all these characters also in 5? I feel like I
No.
haven't seen Dalcium in a minute.
Yeah, he's not. Well, he was in 4. He might have been in 5 too,
I
but
don't know if
they
he
released
was.
a bunch of characters piecemeal in 5, so I never really.
Yeah, I
paid
didn't keep up
attention.
with the DLC.
But yeah, Dalsim is fascinating. He's creepy in this. Like he's almost inhuman. In
Like he can't keep his form almost, it feels like.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Like you see him move in this, and it's just it's weird.
So one thing that Street Fighter started doing that I really appreciated is they let you know who the good guys and the bad guys were by whiting out the eyes of the bad guys. So I didn't know half of the people were bad until I was like, oh, they have white eyes. They're the bad guys.
Well, Dawson was never a bad guy. I don't think.
I think nominally he's a villain. Like he's not like he's fighting for like. I think not selfish reasons, but that's fighting for good reasons.
I believe he
would pose.
Yeah,
it's his foot wrapping around his head.
He's fighting in the original for his village, and he had. It's one of the craziest things ever. In his neck, he had 3 skulls. They were the skulls of his children who died, I believe, of starvation.
Okay. He has an innate hatred of evil that compels him to dispense justice. Okay, so
he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's like not a bad guy.
But he's also spiritual, so that's why he's got white eyes.
He's the Punisher of the Street Fighter and Yoga.
The Buddha's Punisher.
Yeah, so Yoga Master shoots fire, dispenses with evil. Yep. He's no longer carrying his children around his neck, which is metal as heck, man. You ever hear anything more metal than that?
No, that's awesome.
He's got some metal around his chest now. I don't know what that is. But yeah, and then I think Zangief is just a teacher, and he's just like fighting to show his students how muscle wins.
Oh, Zangief,
something like that.
You think the other guys look big? Zangief looks massive.
Let's see him. Blanca's in it.
Yeah,
yes, yeah. So all the original 8 World Warriors. I think only.
Where's Zangief?
There
he is.
Yeah.
Let's see this mountain of a man. I have a buddy who looks just like Zangief. We make fun of him all the time.
Well, when you see him in the game compared to other people, like it is absurd.
7 foot and 299 pounds.
Oh wow!
And that's him against Ehon. He makes Ehon
he's
look
crouching
small.
down to be the same height.
You can.
Something I always appreciated about Street Fighter is the move sets haven't changed that much. Like your classic characters maintain the same move they had in 2, but they've amplified it and added in a bunch of other things. But the core is still there. Like I assume he still does his spinning tornado.
Spinning Larry still does I think he still has the backhand slap.
Yeah, which is awesome. When they added that, I believe in Alpha. So he could. That's how he neutralizes fireballs.
Oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
By the way, StreetFighter.com is awesome.
I didn't know the website had this much because these are the same menu as the game and with the same previews and everything. So this is just data from the game streamed through the website, which is cool.
Yeah, it looks really neat. And there's so many little moves in it that it's great to have a list.
Well, that was always, back in our day, it was, this is before game FAQs where like you needed the magazine.
Yeah.
Or the instruction booklet to tell us what to do, or the game.
There were plenty of days I had EGM open next to me while I'm trying to figure out how to do like fatalities in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
But you had to, because you don't memorize those things.
Well, kids might try to tell you, if you do this just right, like something weird's going to happen. I remember...
Yeah, because your uncle works at Nintendo.
Oh, yeah. I remember the one that was always the toughest to chase, we eventually figured out, was the Raging Demon Akuma's finisher.
Oh, yeah.
Was a weird button input, like unlike anything else in Street Fighter, and once you did it, it was a one-hit kill, so that was always fun.
I remember it just in fighting games in general, I remember they started introducing this concept of, actually, it was Street Fighter, where you hold back.
Yeah, the charge
for 2 seconds and then forward. That was so hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you did too early, it whiffed.
Yeah.
You didn't do the move, and if you took too long, you're just blocking at that point.
And it was also different than, Street Fighter's main competitor was Mortal Kombat.
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Kombat had fatalities, but I think Street Fighter had more technical combat that I think people liked. But in Mortal Kombat, when you're doing fatality, that down, or that back is not a back hold. It's literally tap,
Tapping
tap,
back,
tap.
Whereas
this one, there's different elements of it. Would you say it's a more technical game?
It's
Maybe
hard
not
to say.
currently.
I haven't
but-
played enough of the Mortal Kombat's, but the first 4 Mortal Kombat's were definitely not very technical.
I know that the fighting game community really latched more onto the high skill level, the high ceiling of Street Fighter games.
Yeah.
In antiquity, at least. Like now, there's new Mortal Kombats that have
Mortal
a lot
Kombat
going on.
11 or 12, whichever number was previous. That was really big in the competitive community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, Street Fighter was always there in the background. It was always steadily chugging along, even when Street Fighter 5 tried to kill it. But it looks like 6 is doing well. They've sold millions of copies.
Well, people were hungry for it. It just shows like people didn't stop playing Street Fighter. They just didn't like that
5.
version of the game.
And when did it come out?
It came out 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Oh my God, this is
it was
real
like
fresh.
a month maybe.
Was it a month? Okay.
It was very close to when Tears of the Kingdom came out. I had to make a big choice whether to play this or Tears of the Kingdom.
Well, it's a great palate cleanser between the two because they're very different games. So like I like to go back and forth.
Well, I love a fight. Yeah, a fighter's always fun. Like when you used to rent games as a kid, you maybe spent the first hour on the fighting game and then switched over to the action platformer or whatever it is, you know. But fighting games are always fun because if you play them like short utterances, like everyone should play 30 minutes of fighting games every day just to relieve some stress and have some fun. Or I always used them that way. Like it wasn't my quest, but it's like, well, I got to see all the super moves. Well, I got to finish arcade mode with everybody. And I liked that they kept arcade mode kind of short. Like you said, it's 6 battles.
Yeah, 6 battles in this game.
See, that's the right amount.
That is the right amount. It's like, all right, that's a play session. I'm good.
And it gets slightly harder as you go until you get to the boss. You might lose to them once and continue, and then you beat them.
Yeah, you have
you get
dinner,
nice,
you play Street Fighter, and you have your ice cream, and you go to sleep. Yeah. Right? Like it's
sounds like heaven.
This is probably a crazy thing. Is there any way to play Street Fighter 6 on the go?
There is on the Steam Deck.
Okay.
Which is basically a handheld PC, which I own and is fun. And it runs really well on it.
It does?
It does run really well on it. And we were surprised. We're like, all right, this is a brand new game. We'll see what happens. But Steve was there with me when I downloaded it.
Yeah, Chris got it running, and it looks beautiful in there. And it's perfectly playable. And you can play it on the go. You can pause it. You can put this Steam Deck to sleep in the middle of a match, and it'll come back up on the pause screen.
Really?
Steam Deck's really cool. Yeah.
Well, see, you know, obviously I'm a Switch aficionado, so like Tears of the Kingdom on the train is the best. So Street Fighter on the train, obviously not competitive, but arcade mode, that sounds pretty great.
Depending on the train, you have Wi-Fi. You can try.
Can't you play PS5 on the go?
So PlayStation, Sony put out basically a Joy-Con kit that you can connect to your cell phone, and you can use that. I think they even put out one with the screen, built-in screen.
It's not out yet, but it's coming.
Yeah. That's so you can play PS5 on the go with the remote play. But remote play needs a lot of data. Okay. So it's not good to use outside.
Yeah, I believe it was only used for LAN play. Like when you are basically
in another room in your house.
Wii U had to be like you have to be on the local area network.
Yeah, because Sony's had remote
play.
Stick
to the bathroom.
Yeah, they've remote play at least since PS4, if not 3. I use it for PS4 a lot to play like Final Fantasy VII Remake. And if I could play it on my phone, and it ran very poorly. Like if I was on my phone like at the shop, it ran poorly.
Yeah.
If I was on my PC at the shop, it would still run poorly. My PC at home, 10 feet away from the router, runs poorly.
Yeah,
so you don't want to be outside with it.
I think if you want to play a console version of On the Go, you're going to have to wait for the next iteration of the Switch, if and whenever that is.
Yeah. And actually, you know, I don't know if we're going to get a Street Fighter. No, Street Fighter doesn't go on Nintendo, I don't think.
It would.
It did?
Yeah.
Street Fighter 4
No, I mean, did 4 or 5 ever
4
make
did.
the
4 was on 3DS.
Yeah, 4 was on the 3DS. It actually was a good version.
I bought it for the 3DS. It was interesting.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. But yeah, I mean, taking a fighter on the go would be a lot of fun. And actually, there was a Mortal Kombat that ported over. It's just got the graphics go way down.
Yeah. So I remember playing the I think it was Street Fighter on Game Boy. It had like 4 characters though. You pick like Ken, Ryu, Chun-Li, and like
Street Fighter 2 with the 2 buttons and everything. Yeah. Not a great experience, but it worked.
So what do you guys want people to kind of know about Street Fighter 6? Or what do you guys want to kind of bring up about 6 specifically?
Well, so one of the things that I know a lot of people will love, and I'm a purist, so I don't use it, but there's a modern control scheme. There is a modern control scheme that they came up with, which basically operates like a Smash Brothers control scheme.
Ooh, let me see that, Dylan.
Yeah,
Street Fighter 6 modern controls.
A lot of it is like, hold a direction, press a button to do a move.
Well, you said Smash Brothers. You're talking like...
Yeah. So like if you did like an up B,
like the Smash move?
Yeah, so instead of like an up A, down A, left, right A, neutral A, there's a up special, down special, neutral special.
This is hilarious that Sports Illustrated is giving us this information.
I mean, Capcom did a media blitz for this game too. Like they sent out press kits to everybody they could find.
Here, kind of hit Dylan. Just hit Command plus a couple times. Thank you.
Yeah, so you see that modern control type. The classic is, the 6 buttons. Modern's got a whole button that's just special move.
Oh, okay.
So you get light, medium, heavy attack. You get special move, and you can press a directional button with any of those buttons, and you get a different move.
So wait a minute. It's feasible that this unknown Ken is using modern control.
Yeah.
Against this pro that's using classic
It tells
control.
you what they're doing, like what they're using.
Yeah. It does tell you what control scheme they have.
And the thing is, in theory, like it's not necessarily better.
Yeah, it's not as in
true.
depth. But yeah. What's something you like about Street Fighter 6?
I like just how it's like a library. A game. The game tells you how to play it in so many different ways. There's tutorials. There's move lists. A lot of it, like if you want to learn more training to get better, it's in there. There's a lot to explore. Like it's one of the first fighting games I've played where it feels like I need to devote some time. Like if I want to see everything there is, that's not even get good at the game. That's just like to see all the modes, to see what I can do in this game.
Isn't this the great modern struggle of like, if you get a AAA title, it's going to take you a year.
Yeah.
It's going to take you a year, I don't understand how people can drive through this stuff so fast. Now, we all have jobs and businesses to
when
run,
you don't have jobs and businesses, I imagine it's a little
or children.
easier. Yes.
Oh, and that's a great question.
Unless you get your children to play the games for you.
My kids have not played it yet. You know what? And I got to see if they'd be interested.
Have they played any, besides Smash Brothers, any fighting games?
No, not really. They haven't asked, but I should offer. Yeah.
So, as far as Street Fighter, the series, do you have all-times? Do you have all-time moments? Do you have all-time games? Why should people play the Street Fighter game you want them to play?
So my all-time favorite Street Fighter game is Street Fighter Alpha 2.
Yeah.
It was just like, especially at the time, it was the culmination of everything Capcom learned how to do in the fighting game. And it was just fun. It was fun. It was colorful. It had very good animation. The super move animations were amazing. And just the fact that it was something that you could get good at quickly. If you wanted to master it, you had to devote some time and energy to it. We can be good at it just by playing the actual game as it wanted itself to be played. And then not for nothing, but Akuma in that was amazing. Probably the strongest he's been.
Yeah.
True.
So my favorite's one of the spin-off series, the Versus series. I love.
I was not counting them on
I
purpose.
was it's funny. I was going to cheat as well, so I'd love to hear this.
Well, so mine is not going to be yours. Marvel versus Capcom. Marvel versus Marvel
Street
Superheroes Heroes versus Street Fighter was my favorite.
Is it the original?
No,
That's the second one.
It's
original was X-Men versus Street Fighter.
Oh, right.
X-Men versus then Marvel Superhero versus Street Fighter. It was the direct predecessor to Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah.
Which was good. I liked all those as well. We love Marvel versus Capcom 2. Like that's a all-time classic. But this one just feels right.
Well, since you're cheating, that's also my favorite.
This is some cheat. Yeah.
Wait,
well,
you
right.
have the same- Really?
Yeah.
You got to help me out. How on earth is this better than the masterpiece that is Marvel vs. Capcom 2?
It's not as bloated. And I hate to say that about Marvel vs. Capcom 2 because I love that game.
Yeah.
But it was just pure, simple fighting game fun. Especially combining, it was just Street Fighter Alpha mashed up with Marvel Superheroes, just fighting game.
Yeah.
Literally, that was how the control worked, how the moves worked. They all had the same moves as those respective
Marvel
games.
Superheroes versus Street Fighter. Yeah, it's
So I'm
it's a
assuming.
mouthful.
So everything changed when X-Men: Children of the Atom came out.
Yeah,
that was the first time I saw big.
Huge sprites with those screen-filling super moves.
And then that led into, I'm guessing, X-Men versus Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I think there was Marvel, like War of the Gems.
Yeah, Marvel Superheroes War of the Gems.
And then that must have led into this.
Yeah, and then the next game out was...
This one felt like it had just the right amount of characters, and they're all weird in their own way. Like there's... And just look at this character list. Like they're all over the place, but they're all unique. They all have very different silhouettes. It's just big and smashy, and it feels visceral.
And this is 90s Marvel, kids. Like this is everything is weird.
Yeah. It's all in the style of the 90s animated series, and also the voice actors of the 90s animated series did the voice clips for the Marvel characters. Yeah.
So hit that YouTube clip 2 from the left.
It's like Berserker Barrage was what's his name? Cam Clark, I think, that did the voice of Wolverine in the animated series.
Berserker Barrage.
The voice of the voice of Storm for the animated series. You know, when she heard, I don't think she said any words, but her like grunts and groans are like effort noises were all the original voice actors.
I didn't know that, actually.
For me, I mean, as silly as it is, it was just the sheer size of super attacks that changed everything.
Yeah,
but the Versus series, I think, is the greatest thing Street Fighter did.
Well, because like to that point, it gave Ryu the Shinku Hadouken, which is a half-screen filling, 10-second long Hadouken,
which we love.
like Kamehameha, basically, which was amazing.
Now, did this have partners?
Yes, so it was two on a team. And so it was just enough. And one of the fun things,
that?
Cyber Akuma was the boss.
Yeah.
What?
Cyber
Because
Akuma.
they got cybernetic upgrades, and he would fly around the screen.
But look how big and bold these characters are. Like, they look so right.
Super
And I
jumps.
think this is why I enjoy when they went to 3D, they kept the large sprite size, you know?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, Spider-Man's he's animated so good in this game, too.
Yeah, whatever engine these all ran on, to me, is like peak.
What, the CPS2 engine?
Yeah, CPS2 was the arcade board that it was running on, yeah.
What that thing was just beautiful.
And, of course, this is my favorite game because it introduced Shumagorath to the wider world.
Yeah, Shumagorath is a squid-looking eyeball monster.
So he wasn't in the Marvel game prior?
He wasn't a Marvel game prior, but that game wasn't as widely played as this game.
I distinctly remember this game in arcades.
Yeah. So I did misspeak. War of the Gems introduced Shumagorath, but this I maintain popularized him. Yeah. There are memes.
And some of these are hard to
this.
find. These cabinets are pretty tricky because I feel like it was like annually they were replacing it with the next iteration, which resulted in, my favorite, which was Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yes.
Because it took this and just amplified it.
I forgot there's a Mecha Zangief if you put in a code.
I didn't know
the video
that.
showing.
Oh my god. Blackheart, he was so tall.
Oh, there he is.
And he had like extra super armor.
Yeah.
So like you could hit him like 4 times and
Look
he
at
wouldn't
the
stop.
expressions though in this artwork. My God.
The artwork's so good. Oh my god, I could just watch it forever. It feels great.
There's also
Just
like
seeing insert coin though. It makes me feel great. Street Fighter is, and actually let's talk about this. Street Fighter to me is one of the best examples of arcade gaming that we had that a lot of people don't get to have.
Yeah.
There was a line for this machine, and there was one guy, probably you, holding it down. Undefeated.
I can't make that claim for Street Fighter. It was just that one day with Virtual On. I mean, we were both pretty good, and our other friend Nan, he was also pretty good. He
usually
better
beat
than
us. Yeah, he usually beat us.
Yeah, but there's like this one kid that was a grade below us that played the cheesiest Spider-Man ever. So he would normally maintain that spot just through pure cheese. We didn't know how to defeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he has a palette swap for Blackheart, who's his son. Except I think in the comics he doesn't look like Mephisto.
No, he doesn't.
But they just kind of like conglom them together.
Palette swap.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how refreshing this is. To like just to look at these screens, which like these were the king of. You have a younger cousin or sibling, just let them watch the screens. There's so much going on. It's fun. You feel like you're playing. But Shumagorath, I'm with you too. Like, why did I know so much about this random character no one knew about? This is why.
Yeah. And like you were saying, like I think a culture evolved around this, which doesn't exist like as prevalently as anymore. Like you said, you could go to Pizza Hut and play this game. Yeah. It's not the case anymore. But
if you're like a younger gamer, imagine how people can go, gather around and play like Roblox online.
Yeah.
But imagine all those people in person.
Yep.
In a room waiting in line to take their turn.
Yeah.
there was something about that. It was magical.
Well, and we would go on Chestnut Street to the various arcades. There were like 3 arcades on Chestnut Street.
Spaceport and Zounds.
And we would basically go to the one that had the most working buttons at the time.
Yeah, that's funny.
The buttons would die, and we'd be like, oh, man, we got to go to Zounds today. And we all go down there it was dark. But we would be playing. We were high school kids, and there'd be businessmen coming in, and we'd be playing against them, and like it was so much fun.
It's so funny.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking of us as businessmen too.
Yeah,
like
wait, no, but these are businessmen like business suits.
Like, years ago, we might have been wearing business suits,
See, if there was an arcade that was playing Street Fighter 6 now, I would want to go wearing a suit, just going to play against the kids.
This is the 90s. This is peak 90s,
Yeah, as
a U.S. agent.
Was it 8th grade or 12th grade graduation gift? I think it might be 8th grade. No, it must have been 12. Chris drew me a panorama of all the characters at Spaceport.
All the regulars there.
Regulars.
Which we didn't know their names, but we played against them almost every day, so we gave them nicknames.
It was Corporate America.
Yeah.
Tall
guy.
Corporate America, that's funny.
He was like tall, looked like Ice-T, and wore a 3-piece suit all the time. And he always had like a Rolex on. He would just like put down a quarter, like ready to play whoever's next.
You know, they really did nail the cast list in this one. Like these are the core that have to be in all of them,
and yet eclectic as well, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's the right word. And I didn't even know that was Charlie.
Yeah.
In there, except as who was supposed to be the Street Fighter 3 new main guy, but he was Colonel Guile's buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The original lore, and I don't know if it was widely supported. Guile's not in that one though.
Oh.
I don't know if it was widely supported or if it was just like a playground lore. But I always knew of Charlie being Guile's friend who got turned into Blanca.
Well, that's from the movie.
That's from the movie.
Okay, it's from the movie. That's why.
from the
Okay,
movie.
because the games do not follow that lore.
No, they do not. It's
Nash
made up.
was a separate
Blanca
person.
just lives in Brazil.
Yeah.
He's just like,
Well, he was just a kid who was raised by electric eels in the Amazon River.
Well, as of Street Fighter 6, he lives with his grandmother.
Yeah.
I think it's his grandmother, and his storyline is hilarious because there's a guy in a blanket suit going around beating people up. And then you show up and Blanca's like, hey, could you help me find the guy dressing up as me who's beating people up? Because he's trying to sell these Blanca dolls. And they're making a lot of money, but I don't get any of it. And I think it's Blanca and he's trying to play you. I think that's where the storyline goes. I haven't gotten that far yet, but I think he's doing it and then he's trying to gaslight you into thinking that someone else, because he has you wear the suit at some point so he can beat you up.
here, as we kind of wrap this up, Dylan, let me see that Daigo versus Fudo. Yeah, let me see that. Yeah, this is like some actual gameplay here that we can kind of go out on. Boy, it has just gotten so cool. I mean, when we first encountered these guys, they were itty bitty little. Well, you probably know the actual pixel count.
Yeah. Well, the game was 320 by 240 pixels. So it's come a long way. You can play this in 4K easily, happily on the right system.
Look.
Yeah,
Like Dowson's just like made out of putty at this point.
I mean, this is so fun because it's just like, you know, gaming was in its infancy, you know, in the early 80s, right? And these guys came out in the, late 80s?
Yeah, Street Fighter 1 was like 85, 86, and then Street Fighter 2 was 87, 88.
Street Fighter 2 was in the 80s?
Was it that early?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought it was
early 90s
It was like
as well.
It was like 87 in Japan, 88 or 89 here.
It was
very early.
The Super Nintendo version was like 91.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know what? That's why my head's kind of all over the place, because it would have gone to arcades first.
Yeah, that was for many people the killer app for the Super Nintendo. Was like a lot of people like, oh, Super Mario World, and other people are like, Street Fighter 2. Yeah.
But this, I mean, it's the same moveset. That's just the coolest thing. There will always be those tornado kicks. There will always be Yoga Flame. There will always be a Hadouken. Now, but the greatest question is the hero of Street Fighter. How is his name pronounced?
Ryu.
It's Ryu. We say Ryu because that's how we grew up. Yeah.
Everyone grew up in the Northeast anyway. Ryu.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Ryu throws fireballs.
On my block, it was Ryu. It was Zangief. For some reason, they put an accent on it, and then Gully.
Gully.
Instead of Guile.
Guile.
Yeah.
Is Guile in Street Fighter 6?
Yeah.
He is.
He's also huge. His hair got huger.
He's huge.
And he looks like what's his name? Nick Nolte's son. Not Nick Nolte's son. The other guy looks like Nick Nolte. The actor looks like Nick Nolte. He looks like Jake Busey. He looks like old buff Jake Busey.
Yeah, he's big and got some facial hair.
Let me see Guile here.
There at the bottom. So
Oh my goodness!
Like it looks like if Jake Busey went to the gym a lot.
You know what it is? Though? What it is they took the Super Nintendo art and they just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
They didn't make it more realistic. They just kept going. Wow, look at that!
You have the same stage basically from the Street Fighter 2.
Yep.
Final thoughts on Street Fighter, boys?
Ooh, I want to play more.
I'm gonna go home and play some Street Fighter 6 tonight. Yeah, we revved up now.
We're not being paid by Capcom.
No. Please pay us, but they're not paying us.
Yeah, we'll be on Patreon soon, I'm sure.
Eh.
And we can always do a Let's Play or something like that as well.
Oh, that'd be fun.
right here in this room in YUNKJunk. My final thought is I want you all to go on YouTube or Google. Roy Wood Jr. has a bit about Street Fighter that is wonderful. It's specifically about the fact that Street Fighter was happening. Why were the people in the background not running away? Why were they just sitting there clapping? It does better justice
fireballs
than I
and arms stretching out, and they're just like, I'm watching this. This is fun.
Yeah. And you know, my favorite, one of those levels I think was E Honda's stage. It was like a fish market, right?
No,
they're in a bathhouse.
Oh, Chun-Li stage.
Yeah, Chun-Li was a fish market. E-Honda was in a bathhouse, and people were just in this hot tub.
There's a dude just drying all forever in the background.
Oh. Well, Street Fighter I think is awesome. I'm so glad to see it. I'm curious what Street Fighter 10 is going to be. I hope they just keep going cartoony and fun, and we never get the, craziness that is incredible realism. Keep them weird.
Christopher Nolan's Street Fighter 2.
I was going to say we need Street Fighter in space, but I think they went to space in 4. I think I think the last boss was on a space station.
Oh, who's the final boss in 6?
Haven't gotten to the real
No,
end.
yeah.
We'll let you know in the next episode.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for watching Tubby Talk with us. We'd also like to thank our wonderful podcast producer, Dylan, who runs YUNKJunk. This is YUNKJunk HQ, where we shoot. And I couldn't be happier to continue doing this show with you and with my friends here. And we'd love to hear a little bit about Tubby Robot before we go.
Yeah, Tubby Robot Ice Cream Factory. We're at 4369 Main Street, and we make the best ice cream in Philly. Hey, come on down.
We'll see you next time, where we'll talk about another game.
YUNKJunk!